Oh, hello, my baby gorillas, and we're back in business on Blue Star. Oh, guys, I hope you're all enjoying yourselves. Hi, Bernadette. Hi, Daniel. How you doing, guys? Let me just pop this chat out. Pop the chat out. Down here. Oh, fantastic. Good stuff, good stuff. You can make that bigger. How do you make the bigger thing? Chat. Make it bigger. Manage chat. Participants, manage moderators. That's not neat. Sure, you can make this chat bigger. Oh well, forget that. Anyway, let's go straight into it. Fat Andy, let's go over this one. It's a cracker. Ben Shapiro destroyed by BBC's Andrew Neil and Alpha Battle Analysis. Oh, fantastic. Who's this by? In Los Angeles. Now, I quite like Ben Shapiro. I think this is probably, and I think he's recognised this. This is by the Charisma Matrix. So this is... Ben Shapiro has been on the money as far back as I can see it. Not his finest hour, this one. And in fact, this is the only time I've seen him getting taken to task a wee bit by Fat Andy. So, and Andrew Neil is the best political commentator, I think, in the UK just now. I think that's widely accepted, including by myself. Although he seems to be a bit scared of me. He must know when his goose is cooked, shall we say. He doesn't seem to want to debate me, but we'll see what he says to me without a right of reply, shall we? Am I coming through loud and clear, my baby gorillas? Am I coming through? Looking very dapper, thanks. You hear me, Bernadette, okay? Is everything coming through? Fantastic, I'm glad you're liking the clobber. I do my best to entertain. I told you everything's going to just get better and better. It's going to get more and more sophisticated, the whole process. We're looking forward to having a wee bit of sophistication now, and I'll just get better and better. Hopefully learn to read again. That's the dyslexia and the ADD. Are we ready? So this is Ben Shapiro, and I thought this would just sort of warm us up into what my beef is with Fat Andy. So let's go for this, and with some of the rest of the media. So it's a Guerilla TV channel versus the rest. We knew that was going to happen anyway. Not all the rest, to be honest with you. There's some other nice journalists who do their job properly, like Fat Andy. Fat Andy does, but Fat Andy, just like the other journalists, we saw that Peter Adams simping, looked like he was on drugs for Sarwar, rather than actually asking allowing another journalist to ask objective questions. But we'll see with Georgie Porgy. Georgie Porgy and I seem to be, Georgie Porgy Galloway and I seem to be on the same page. So here we go.
Frankly, I find this whole thing a waste of time. I don't frankly give a damn what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
I've never heard of you.
Oh, nobody's ever heard of each other. That's fantastic. One of the foremost speakers in America hasn't heard of one of the foremost journalists in the UK.
And why the hell are you interviewing me, sir?
Ben Shapiro
Why are you interviewing me?
destroys leftist politician. Ben Shapiro destroys student and liberal debate.
Well, he does do that. I can't fault Ben. He's always been on the politically on the money with his facts. He's a highly intelligent individual. So I've got no doubts that he has taken people intellectually to task.
Ben Shapiro gets destroyed by BBC's
Fat Andy won't debate me. Oh, and they make all the excuses. Oh, far right, racist, blah, blah, blah. When I'm actually a libertarian liberal. But Big Fat Andy won't debate me. I'll destroy him.
Andrew Neil? When I saw this, I had to dive in. Ben Shapiro is one of the quickest debaters on his feet out there right now. I mean, he was in the Harvard debate team. He's a law student. I think he actually is a lawyer. And he's one of the best on his feet. And there's all these videos that you've probably seen of him just rolling people up. But he went up against this old dude on the BBC who sounds like he's narrating some old Sherlock Holmes novel. but the dude just keeps chucking along at him, keeps talking over him, bringing up old tweets. And Ben Shapiro eventually melts down so much that he ends the interview and takes the microphone off of him.
Yeah, you never fuck about with the jokes. That's my advice, Ben. Don't mess about with the Scottish.
And in this video,
and Ben Shapiro is formidable. Don't get it. Both these men are formidable. Although Andy is a bit fat.
we're going to go through and break down actually what was going on in their heads, so you can break down and understand socially the different moves they were making and how Shapiro ended up getting trapped in a lot of this and some of the moves that Shapiro tried to make, so you can use these strategies in your own life and not get trapped and someone tries to talk down to you. At the very end of the video, I'm going to give you a way if people talk down to you, like your friends or your boss at work, that you can come out of that on top and learn a quick comeback to say. So let's dive into this video. We're going to watch some of it and then we're going to go back, watch it again and break it down.
Some of the ideas that are popular in your side of politics would seem to take us back to the Dark Ages, Georgia, new abortion laws, which you are much in favor of. That
Oh, he's in favour of the right to life, and some people are right to choose. I personally am in favour of the right to choose, because I'm a liberal, I'm a centrist, libertarian liberal, so I favour the right to choose. Ben is actually further to the right of me. He's almost like a minarchist type of libertarian. He's in the libertarian right of the political compass. I actually thought Ben Shapiro was an authoritarian, more of a conservative. So it just shows you when people do the political compass that your opinion, your political opinion can change. Well, Ben's obviously quite to the far right, but he's not far right in the sort of traditional authoritarian far right sense. He's on the far right of the libertarian side of the political compass, and he's already done his political compass. For me, him doing his political compass wasn't as revealing as it was to me, which I was very surprised that he wasn't actually a conservative or somewhere in the authoritarian conservative part of the political compass. But he's a libertarian, almost like a minarchist, almost in the minarchistic. You can check out, I think it's on YouTube. You can check out on YouTube, and you'll be able to see that he is actually nearly a minarchist in the libertarian bottom right of the political compass, which was a surprise to me.
a woman who miscarries could get 30 years. A Georgian woman who travels to another state for an abortion procedure could get 10 years. These are extreme hard policies.
That's
Well, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
I'm a journalist that asks questions unless it's Peter Adams who wants to simp for Mr. Sarwar. Oh, no, you can't ask him that. That's racist. You're such a bully.
Okay, so you're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagree barbaric and suggesting only one side of the political aisle has ideas. So I just want to point out that I wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro,
Oh dear. Well, he's definitely coming from a point of view. I don't personally agree with Ben on this. That my politics, as I said, are more centrist. So I think it's a woman's body, and a woman should have the right to choose. So that's where I stand. I'm a bit like who would be similar? Carol Benjamin, Dave Rubin. Probably about Tim Poole. I think they were all sort of libertarian liberals, and I think Ben is on the right. Although I do like Ben, I have to say, I would love to have a chat with him. But I'm definitely on the liberal side of it. It's women's body. Ultimately, it's her choice.
Are you a member of the...
in America? A woman who miscarries could get 30 years.
Dude, this guy's demeanor is so funny too. It's like the way he talks cracks me up. Just some sophisticated guy who has all the answers. I love it.
A Georgian woman who...
It's good. He must have a good team of receptionists, and yeah, it'll be quite interesting. But the GM news is just going to be a bunch of gatekeepers for the establishment as well. There'll be nothing that's going to be revolutionary. Anybody that's got any ulterior ideas will be you probably more likely get Ash Sarkar, who's a communist and a Muslim, the two largest mass murdering ideologies in the planet's ever known, and she'll go on before me as a libertarian liberal will go on.
who travels to another state for an abortion procedure could get 10 years. These are extreme hard policies.
Well, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
Okay, so this guy's been around the block, you can tell, just in his age and his demeanor. But he kind of caught Ben there when Ben says, which are you? Are you objective or are you somebody who actually has a side, right? Because most times in the U.S., Fox News is conservative and the rest of them are usually pretty liberal. So he asks him straight up and he just says, listen, basically saying, that's not important. I'm just asking you questions. You're the one being interviewed. So that's a very sharp response. It was a quick thinking response to his question that a lot of people would.
And Andy, for the Americans and the people, is in himself and probably right of centre. I would take it, although he's not done his political compass test. But I would think, I don't know where exactly Andrew would be. Seems like a bit of a conservative, but I'm not. I don't like to. That's me just summarising. I don't like to, as you said, put people in boxes just for the sake of putting them in boxes until they actually do the political compass test, and then we know where they stand.
Get put on tilt with.
I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
Okay, so you're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagree barbaric and suggesting only one.
Okay, so that was
I think there can be barbaric policies. I think chopping off atheist heads in Saudi Arabia is a barbaric policy. I think stoning women to death is a barbaric policy. So yes, you can have barbaric policies.
Good thing. And this actually, this interview wasn't quite as terrible as I thought it was going to be when everyone started sending it to me. But he says, okay, so I'm going to assume that you're an objective journalist, but yet you call the question that you ask me one of the practices barbaric. So clearly when somebody assigns a positive or negative to something in the question, they're showing a side on that, right? He's saying the abortion policy is barbaric. So Shapiro's basically calling him out as saying you're not objective because you said this is a bad practice and something that has two sides. So that was quick thinking of Shapiro there too.
One side of the political aisle has ideas. So I just want to point out that,
I
wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro,
are you a member of the...
in America is now so polarized that on one...
Did you see that? That was interesting. Most people aren't able to talk over Shapiro, but this guy is able to do so. And why? We're going to go back and watch that again. But it's because he's like a freight train, right? He's got a very calm, confident delivery, and he just sounds like he's not going to stop. And Shapiro recognizes that, so he stops. You hardly ever see that.
I wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro, are you a member of the... in America is now so polarized that...
Human life exists at conception. It ought to be protected. Now, back to my question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be an objective down the middle network.
No, definitely
it
not.
Obviously is not. It never has been. And you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the dark ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
I think that's fair. Like I said, I think Shapiro actually he melts down here in a little bit, but I think he got some good lines in here, and he's just not going to let that go. Because basically, the way Shapiro feels, this guy just showed his hand, his poker hand at the game, by calling that barbaric and saying that something's going to take it back to the dark ages. Clearly there's negative connotations to those two comments, and he's not going to let that die. So as soon as he accepts the dude's frame for a minute and answers the question, he's right back on that point.
Seriously, it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you would have...
Yeah, it would be like me going, well, I think we probably get more American television, and we can certainly see it more on the internet. But although the BBC are like just Corbynites, a bunch of Corbynites in London, Andrew, who got sacked from the BBC because they're all card-carrying commies in the BBC, Fat Andy is probably slightly right of centre, but he has been one of the best journalists because he will attack the left and right. He'll even attack me without giving me a right of response.
Okay, that actually is a powerful statement, even though it doesn't even make sense. Because what Shapiro said makes perfect sense, but the old dude in the fancy accent says, "Sir, if you only realized how ridiculous you sound, you wouldn't have said it. If you only realized how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it." And We'll see what Shapiro says.
Let's move on.
Ben obviously literally doesn't know who Andrew Neil is, who is the best journalist in the UK, debatably, arguably. And but I would suggest he is. And Fat Andy is obviously... I think he's been the publisher of Rupert Murdoch's news and things like that as well. So he's obviously been around in right of centre right. I would say centre right politics, but he's an objective journalist. I'll give him his due. Well, like me,
he doesn't even understand because it does make sense. But just because he says it, like most people don't critically think about what's going on in a debate. So most people watching this TV show who are used to the BBC are going to think, oh, he got him. He told him he's ridiculous and he would never say that if he realized how dumb it was. And Shapiro's like, wait, what?
Ben, for his to give him some credit and kudos, after this, he said that he had made mistakes in this, and he has apologised for comments he made when he was much younger as well, which you shouldn't be doing. But it just wasn't his best moment. We all get them. It's just one of these things. But he's nailed it in so many other aspects of his speaking. He's done a great job. But for Fat Andy, but Fat Andy scared of me, so Fat Andy won't have a debate with me.
I think it's pretty evident from your own questions exactly what you are, sir.
Trump? Would you vote for Mr. Trump in 2020?
See, he doesn't give him time. There's so many things going on right here. So he says that. You wouldn't have made that statement if you realized how dumb it sounded, and then is right on to the next question. So Shapiro, he tries to kind of defend himself and say, wait, that's exactly what you said. But this guy's right on to the next question, so he doesn't even really get a chance to drill that home.
If you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. So let's move on.
Right on to the next.
Would you vote
I
for
think it's
Mr.
pretty evident from your own questions exactly what you are,
Just
sir.
repeats it.
Would you vote for Mr. Trump in 2020?
I'd certainly consider voting for Mr. Trump in 2020, just like I'd consider voting.
Because Shapiro was an anti-Trumper before that. I don't know if he voted for the Democrats. I don't know what he did, but certainly the first time, as far as I'm aware, he was an anti-Trumper, and I think he gradually grew into Donald Trump as president, who was very good.
Voting for anybody else in 2020.
But didn't you once say that you'd never vote for him?
I said
so. Now he's trying to trap him, right? Because he said a long time.
So he's getting jabbed. Fat Andy's like a big heavyweight boxer. Boom. Oh yeah, boom. There you go. There you go. Here you go, suck ducky. Think you're good. Boom. Fantastic. Verbal jousting is absolutely delicious. And it shouldn't be underrated Ben Shapiro's intellect as well. He's very shrewd. He's been to Harvard. But it just shows you, don't mess with anybody. Don't mess with the Scots.
Time ago that he would never vote for Trump. And so now this guy's trying to trap him from some old tweets or old writing.
That I wouldn't vote for him in 2016. And then I wrote a column for National Review explaining the conditions under which I might change my mind.
You're a culture war warrior, isn't
The dude is a freight train if he's able to answer just straight on to the next question.
Now, you're a star of new media, of conservative new media. You and others...
Yeah, they're doing very well. I was well impressed with... Nicola Arbor, she was great as well, and Ben and Candice, who was the other fellow? I was the Officer Tatum. Well, it was a great bunch of absolute celebrities doing the last thing that I saw. Great conversation, very interesting.
On the left and the right, you position yourselves as supposed tellers of hard truths, but haven't you all just really coarsened public discourse in America and
oh no, hurty feelings. Oh dear, you shouldn't get your feelings hurt.
Exacerbated its divisions?
I'm telling you, Fat Andy's a gatekeeper for the establishment.
You know, it's kind of odd to be hearing about me coarsening public discourse when you call policies you disagree with brutal and bringing us back to the dark ages.
Touché.
So once again, this entire interview, he caught that guy slipping up. He's not going to let him leave it.
The point, I don't want to return to it, but the point was to put a position for you to reply to it. And I thought we'd covered that. I'll put some of the points too, because on your
videos, characterization of issues is part of the problem in the coarsening of public debate.
Well, maybe it's also part of your problem too, because we have.
No, it's your problem. No, it's your problem. Got debate. No, it's your this issue. No, it's your this issue. Just go on with it.
YouTube videos. Ben Shapiro destroys the abortion argument. Ben Shapiro destroys transgenderism and abortion. Is that not a kind of coarse public discourse?
Well, are those videos labeled by me?
I have no idea. But
why are you picking out? Why are you? I have a question. Why are you picking out random YouTube videos put up by people who are not me?
Are you
and then attributing?
Touche. See, that's him done it again. That's 2 good points for it to Ben there. Well
the
done.
Titles to me.
Are you unhappy with the way they've been described?
Brilliant. Oh my goodness, eh? What a political operator, Fat Andy.
The old guy is not going to let that slide. So Shapiro says, listen, those aren't even my videos. How are you pulling those up? Why are you even reading me the titles? Nothing to do with me. But Shapiro has said in the past that he loves those videos that go up. I don't know if this guy's really done that much research and knows that, but now he holds his feet to the fire by saying, well, do you like him or not?
I think that people can describe me however they please. It's a free country, and I'm all in favor of a public debate. If you watch the actual clips, they are generally civil conversations between me and somebody who disagrees with me.
Oh, well,
that was very good. I'll have to remember that.
Well, again, with Mr. Obama, you said, and you're Jewish yourself. I only mention that because to put this in context. The Jews who vote for Obama are, by and large, Jews in name only. Ginos, you call them.
My statement was based on the fact that Jews in the United States, as an ethnic group, are largely irreligious, which is true by every single poll. Jews are the most irreligious group in the United States. As an Orthodox Jew who actually takes Judaism seriously, the point that I am making is that most Jews who are ethnically Jewish are not religiously Jewish in any context.
There really has to be a separation between Jews as a people and Judaism or Jewishness, Jewish beliefs as an ideology. There has to be a separation there, because every religion should be up for criticism. Every religion should be able to be criticised.
No. The point you were making is that Jews who vote for Obama are Jews in name only. I mean, I guess.
Also, I hope you're having.
So now you can see he's had enough, because this guy just constantly is just asking these ridiculous questions, gives no response, and is just calling up old things he said. And I think the whole thing about the Jewish religion is really starting to get under his skin. So watch him now. I think this is when he starts to melt down.
Fun, by the way, going through every old tweet that I've ever sent to try and do gotcha questions. But if you'd like to have a discussion about my general philosophy or things I've done in, say, I don't know, that's 2012, so it's now 2019. If you'd like to discuss something I've done in, say, like the past 5 years, why don't we do that? How about that?
And it takes a lot to get him emotionally rattled, even though he's trying to kind of keep it together. This is about as mad as I've seen him on TV before.
Because your book is a criticism of how angry America is and how America has to do better. And I'm simply
I have an entire list on my website, sir. On my list, I have an entire website of dumb, bad things that I've said. I'm simply trying to point out some of the things you've said that seem to me to help to stoke that anger. For example, you said Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
Now, I've got Arabic friends and they don't do that. That's a wee bit it's a bit very disparaging. I actually really loved Arabic friends and being in an Arabic country for the most part of obviously what had happened. And I found the Arabs and the people in the Middle East really, really nice. I'm a big Arab file with their culture, which I'm differentiating. Their underlying culture is different from the religion. I like speaking Arabic. There was good experiences, a lot of good experiences there, as horrendous ones. But I am an Arab file, and I don't speak badly about Arabic people, and that's not just me being politically correct, because you guys know I'm the last thing from being politically correct. But actually, that was my genuine experiences, and I really liked them.
Well, as I say in an article entitled, here's a list of all the giant, bad, dumb things I've ever said.
Oh, man.
Was that dumb?
Yes, that's a dumb tweet. And not only, but it is also important to mention that the next few tweets clarify that tweet is specifically referring to the Hamas leaders.
You're how worked up he's getting. Now, another thing is important to understand. How worked up is he compared to the person he's talking to, because usually your emotional state and emotional reactivity is always compared to the other person. You know, the person who reacts the least typically has the highest status, and the other dude just unflappable. He hasn't changed his tone, his speed at all, and you can see Shapiro speeding up, getting more tense, getting more nervous, and getting more agitated.
No, actually, it wasn't what you went on to do and say. You are correct about the slur on Arabs. It's not all Arabs that want to live in open sewage and blow things up. It's just Palestinians, you went on to say.
No, it says the ones who take sides against Israel in the Israel-Palestinian conflict.
Population is rotten to the core, you went on to say. Not Hamas.
Listen to this guy just talk over him. Shapiro knows he can't stop him, so he's not even trying anymore. Once this guy starts talking, he's not stopping until he said his piece.
Population.
I say that by poll numbers, they elected Hamas. They educate their children in school that Israel should be obliterated, sir.
I guess.
If you want to read, honestly, this is a giant waste of time.
So now he's getting angry. You can hear it. Now he's breaking off. He's considering leaving. I think he's wanting to leave right now.
In the sense that the entire interview is designed for you to shout slogans or old things that I've said at me. I don't see how this forwards the debate. You talk about undermining the public discourse. It seems to me that simply going through and finding lone things that sound bad out of context and then hitting them with...
Well, that's what Fat Andy does. That's what Fat Andy did with me. Although, I'm much better than that anyway. We'll go through what you said about me, and if I was correct.
People with them is a way for you to make a quick buck on BBC off the fact that I'm popular.
A quick buck in BBC. They're getting paid billions by forced poll tax, which we need to privatise the BBC with a paedophile monument outside the front.
And no one has ever heard of you.
Yeah, who are you, Andy? Who are you? Nobody's heard of you. According to Ben Shapiro, who the hell are you?
Okay, so that's funny and that's coherent, right? He's saying, because really all this guy is done has been pulled up old things. He said it's not even like in the same context. He's trying to tie it all back together to like the polarity of the political system in the United States, but he's just using that as kind of a framework to be able to pull anything that he wants that he said is somewhat extreme. And Shapiro very competently and kind of elegantly called that out, but then how did he end it? You know he's getting mad when he makes a personal attack and says he's never even heard of him.
There are not many bucks to be made on the BBC, unlike American broadcasting.
Yeah, I know, because we're all paying for it, getting forced to pay for it by threat of jail. Oh, brilliant. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of very rich people in London getting very wealthy from it, and ignore the rest of anything outside the M25.
Shapiro, the point I'm trying to make is that your words are
yeah, from taxpayers' money, the poll tax to pay for it.
Partly designed to produce the consensus and understanding that the book seems to want to produce. That's my point. That you write about, Judeo-Christian culture and so on.
Look at his body. Let's go back and watch that again. He can't even sit still. He's so angry. That's such a tell. And you look at this frame right now. His finger is on his cheek. Anytime you put your hand over your face or on your face, on your neck, and the back of the neck is actually the highest stress tell. He's under major stress right now, and he's showing it with all his body language.
The book seems to want to produce. That's my point, that you write about, Judeo-Christian culture and so on, but so much of what you've said in the past would seem
trying to keep it together.
Turn its back on Judeo-Christian culture.
You're lecturing me on Judeo-Christian culture?
Dear. Do you know who I am?
After you call the pro-life position barbaric?
I just
really?
Question.
And I asked you a question. You failed to answer a single one of mine.
Yeah, he doesn't answer questions. It's a one-way interview. It's more like a police interrogation than an interview.
Frankly, I find this whole thing a waste of time. If you
just walk off. It's never good to walk off a set because it does look like you lose.
want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read and critique the book? If you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't
questions?
frankly give a damn what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
Who are you? Who are you?
I've
never heard of you. No one's ever heard of you.
You until I briefed myself for this. But that's
Oh dear, two heavyweights going at it. Absolutely delicious. Hey, what? But I mean, legendary interview. Legendary.
Okay, so that's his little comeback. I've never heard of you either. So he's trying to. He's clearly getting a little bit more worked up. The old dude. This may be about as worked up as he gets, but he's getting a little bit.
Oh, right, I could do much better.
Kind of a personal attack. He said twice he doesn't know who he is.
It's not the issue. You have a new
why the hell
book
are you
out,
interviewing
and
me,
it's an interesting book. But my point is, your book claims that
Well, it'd be
society...
nice if you would quote it from time to time.
Your book is... Well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question.
He says that like Shapiro's been talking over him the whole interview, as if that old dude hasn't just been steamrolling him the whole time.
Frankly, I don't think this,
society
you know what? Honestly,
is turning its back on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah,
what are those values? What are the values it's turning its
Dude, the
back
guy's
on?
so good at talking over him that he knew Shapiro was going to leave right there. Just keeps on talking through, and he actually sucks Shapiro back in a little bit longer. Let's watch. Let's watch when we can tell that he wanted to leave.
Your book is... Well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book
frankly, I
claims
don't think
that
this,
society
you know what? Honestly,
is turning its back
sir.
All right, so he knows he wants to leave right
Judeo-Christian
there.
Values.
Yeah,
What are those values? What are the values it's turning its back on?
By the way, I've got a video. People talk over you and you have a hard time. I think Shapiro needs to watch this video after seeing this now too. I've got 3 ways that when anybody talks over you, there's 3 strategies you can use to shut them down so you can keep talking. I'll put a link to that in the description below and also a card up top here if you want to watch that video.
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro, we'll say goodbye.
Wow. And so he closes it down with the final slap in the face. Thank you for showing that anger is not a part of the American discourse when he got so worked up. I've never seen Shapiro actually walk out and unplug a microphone before. That's
usually
something.
nails
Now, Shapiro was definitely under attack right there. And if you ever...
Ben usually handles himself much better than that 90% of the time. No, 99% of the time I would say that this was... I've never seen anybody, but if you've he's Fat Andy's a heavyweight, but as I said, Fat Andy wouldn't debate me.
Have people who make fun of you or put you down. Maybe your friends talk down to you, make you feel a little bit small, or maybe your boss or a coworker talks down to you and you can't think of a quick comeback. I've got a video for that too. I'll put a link in the description, or you can click right here to watch it and I'll teach you what you can do to kind of put that person in place. Or if you haven't seen this video.
Yeah, I like the guy that's talking about it. I might go back and actually listen to more of his stuff. What's my baby Guerilla saying? What's happening? Hello. Are we all hearing this? All right, Davey? Hi, Scott. How you doing, buddy? Peter Bojo. Peter Bojos. Ben Shapiro is a neocon. Yeah, I would have thought he was a neocon. Ideology, well, so I need to watch what I'm saying here. On the political compass is a libertarian liberal, but does that mean that he couldn't be a neocon and part of the neocon ideology as well, the globalist shill ideology? Yes, he could. So the fact that he could be a globalist and a libertarian liberal. You can, like we saw about, you can have racist communists, and the amount of racism Antifa are speaking towards minorities just now in the United States just shows you, it's just unbelievable. I am a man, I don't want to pay for abortions. Liberty is freedom. What do each individual think is right? It is the road to anarchy. Some people think they have the right to murder without being restrained by any moral compass. That's right. That's great, James. That's excellent. mustache. I don't know how to say that. Mustache shake. Kill a baby after birth isn't abortion. That's correct. That's murder. Yeah, definitely. And anybody who's doing that should definitely go to jail for infanticide. Disgusting. Liberty is granted. Freedom is right. Correct. Hello. Well, hello, my baby gorillas. Oh, fantastic. Having a great time already. How many bodies have we got watching it? Seems to be the channel's being suppressed, but slightly as well. We've got nine likes so far, but let's get this shared, guys. Let's get it out. They're trying to suppress us. I don't usually ask to share things, and they are trying to smash us. Right, and I'll have a wee bit of this. Love that. Here we go. So this is me being able to get Fat Andy. I think this is the right one. I don't know. I think this is the right one. If not, we're going to have to watch another one, which is going to be a disaster. Debate.
Nigel Farage, this election should have been your finest hour. Instead, you've barely got a walk-on part. What went wrong?
Well, I think if you look at it, back in early April this year, I formed a coalition. I brought together some Conservatives.
Now, the historical question is always going to be, in Hartlepool, Tim Poole from the polls is sitting very low in the polls when he was at almost at 29%. It looks like the Labour Party are going to lose to the Conservatives in Hartlepool as well, which is not a ringing endorsement of what's his name, Stammer's leadership. And they're also falling in Scotland as well. The Labour Party are falling. I think they're at 60. They've gone from 19 to 16% in Scotland under Sawa. So the Labour Party are falling in their ideology. And a lot of people are going even batshit crazier and going to the Green Party, who are full of, like, if you think of, like, village idiots going to a convention and then picking the biggest village idiots out of that, that's pretty much the Green Party. So the historical question will always be, what if Nigel had gone right to the wall and put, before the last election, MPs in every seat in the UK? And would that have made, would there have been a breakthrough? Because don't forget that we're going up in the polls, we're up at 25%. Would that have made the breakthrough rather than standing down? That's a historical question that will be asked, a politically historical question that will be asked into the future. And there won't be an answer to it. Was getting Brexit, and now we've seen Bojo getting increasingly authoritarian, locking us all in our houses for a year for a virus, trying to bring in a passport, and like a medical passport to be shown for a virus that's 99.9% survivable, and trying to almost like bring in a social credit scoring through the back door. Oh, come on.
Together some Labour people, all of whom very unhappy that 3 years after the referendum, we were literally going nowhere. Brexit was in the weeds. A second referendum was coming down the track, 500,000 people marching in London. So what we did is we fought the European elections, won it dramatically, and completely reshaped the debate around Brexit. So in a sense, what we did was to create Boris Johnson and a narrative that in 2017 had been Brexit means Brexit, and now it's let's get Brexit done.
And now you're going nowhere.
Well, I think
you're marginalised, irrelevant in this election.
I don't think if you came with me and visited some of the Labour heartlands in the north, you would think that. And I also think.
And they did very well, and I would suggest that now the Brexit Party, or now the Reform Party, whether it's now or in the future, if they continue, because politics is a momentum game, and it has to get more and more momentum. And they stood down to help Bojo out and get his majority. But if Boris keeps going down this Orwellian nightmare that he's going to lock us all in his houses and we're not going to be able to travel and whatever else is going to happen, then people are just going to say screw you, and because the Labour Party would probably do exactly the same, and the Liberals. So the Brexit Party are going to be the only sort of credible political choice, or now the Reform Party, the Reform UK Party, are going to be the only credible choice for them to move from the Lib Lab Con Party down south. So there's still a great chance that under Tim Rice, whether it's now, even if they bubble along just now, there could be an uptake when people get sick of the authoritarianism from the Conservative Party.
What we've done is have a very dramatic effect on this election. I mean, I think number one, the decision, difficult decision, but the decision I took in 317 seats to stand down.
These are the Tory-held seats.
That's right. And what that's done is poleaxe the Liberal Democrats. They were going to win in South London, down through Surrey, right out to the west of England. They were going to win a lot of seats if we'd stood, and I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. So I think we've stopped the Liberal Democrat surge, stopped a second referendum, and now what we're doing, and this is not really noticed very much in London, and you won't get it from the pollsters, but what we're actually doing now is tearing chunks out of the Labour vote, and that does two things.
Well, hold on, because just after the European elections, you were puffed up enough to talk about delivering a complete realignment of British politics. Now you might not win a single seat,
do you know something?
And you're not even standing yourself.
Do you know something? Well, we'll come to that. Do you know something? As you know, from August, I wanted to try and put together a Brexit alliance because I believe that this is a defining issue of our age, working together in a sensible cooperation with the Conservatives.
Right. And you failed.
And there were some Labour figures that wanted to do it, and I failed.
I don't... He may have failed at that, but I think petty and irrelevant. He hasn't failed in his overall mission, which you have to give Nigel kudos for. He got us out of what looks like a completely centralised, authoritarian European Union.
Because the
and undemocratic.
Conservative Party didn't want to do it.
I mean, it was hubris, wasn't it?
No.
To talk about a complete realignment from a party that, as I say, might not win a single seat and whose leader isn't even standing for Parliament.
Well, I think realignment's needed, much needed.
Yeah, but it isn't going to happen.
The Conservative Party do not want anything to change, and that is what I've come to realise.
So it was hubris.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't hubris.
Exactly, because they're a corporatist globalist organisation, the Conservative Party. They don't want anything changed because it's suiting them. They're paying big, huge contracts out to their friends in the Conservative Party for massive deals for illegal immigrants while we're meant to be in a pandemic, everybody's locked down, yet people are just arriving in boats, we don't know who they are or what they do. And they're getting put up in hotels and all sorts of other things. It's been deliberately done through the Union, the Mediterranean, the Barcelona process, the Treaty of Marrakesh. This has been deliberately done by our Conservative government to have a de facto open immigration policy, yet not in any of their manifestos. And Priti Patel talk a good game, we're going to do this with migrants, when it's been the Conservative Party who have let the people in the first place.
An ambition that failed.
At this stage, we don't look like fundamentally reforming British politics. But do I think there is an appetite? Well,
I don't think, I mean, that's just a one-off election. If the party is consistent and just takes the fight to the Conservatives, there is no reason why there can't be a change. It would make, this is a democracy. You don't have to just vote for the Lib Lab Con party. If you take your vote and move it somewhere else, you're going to get a different type of politics, which will be better for the UK as a whole. This constriction just means that it allows politics to be corrupt, and if you move to another political party, it then brings in fresh talent, fresh faces, and you don't know what you're going to get. Not rather than just sticking to the same political parties, you can change and have a change in the politics.
Appetite for it, absolutely.
And today, 4 of your own MEPs, members of the European Parliament, have resigned to back the Conservatives. One of them, Annunciata Rees-Mogg, said.
Well, hardly surprised that Moggy's Harry Potter's sister has rejoined the Conservative Party and put Nigel. See, this is the thing with Nigel. He should have kept the people who were loyal to him closer and the people who were going to be mischievous and kept him at a slightly further distance until they proved themselves.
Conservatives are the only option for Brexit supporters. She's right, isn't she?
No, she's on the numbers. She couldn't be more wrong. We've been down this road before. I remember in 2015 when I was leading UK.
But I think it's time to replace the Tories. I think Boris is doing a terrible job. I think the fact that we've been locked in our houses for a year is absolutely disgraceful. And you'll see more and more civil disobedience. People will not just accept this any longer. We're not interested in third and fourth strains. We're not prepared to actually put up with this stuff any longer.
And people like you saying to me, aren't you going to split the Conservative vote and let Labour in? And of course the opposite happened because we took far more Labour votes in the key seats in the Midlands in that campaign. And actually the Conservatives got a majority because of this. And in this election,
enough of the walk down memory lane. You've got four of your MEPs a week before polling day have resigned and said vote Tory.
All right, well, let's just run through that very quickly. One of them is the sister of a cabinet minister.
What's that got to do with it?
Hang on. One of them is the sister of a cabinet minister.
But that's down to you, Nigel, who you're picking. And I understand that they've got certain political gravitas, but that's you're picking. You need to go out with the not just be Tory light. You need to have your own ideology, and this is where the Reform Party, I don't know which falls into the political spectrum. I would work with David Cushion and Mr. Fox and try and get them into this new entity that's going to be started up, because I don't think it's any point in them being floating about in different parties. They won't get anywhere. You have to have an underlying understanding of where you are in the political compass and your underlying ideology. To actually, like we would follow the New Enlightenment or the Scottish and British Enlightenment values and being liberal and being a proper libertarian liberal as well. So that's a combination of two existing political ideologies. I don't know what Colin Fox stands for, although he's a smashing guy. He's always come across quite well. And I don't know what David Cushion, although every time I hear him I like him and I hope he wins the mayor of London. But underlying, I think they're both libertarian liberals, but they I don't know where they are in the political spectrum. And we've got some guy for Labour, another Muslim guy against Humza Useless, fighting for Labour. I wouldn't vote for Labour or the SNP.
Another one has a boyfriend working for that cabinet minister. Fact. And another one is a personal friend of Boris Johnson's. Now they joined. Not smears, they're facts. Yeah. They joined the Brexit Party.
And you paraded them.
They joined the coalition.
And this is the difficulty with importing just high-ranking Tories into high-ranking positions in your new political party. I can understand for the short-term good, but you have to have people who are ideologically on side. Then you have to understand where they are. It's no point in just having Conservative line.
That I put together. Now, they clearly were disaffected with Mrs. May as leader, and we're not the Conservative Party. And
well, you can not be.
I'll tell you something. Boris Johnson's deal, unamended, is unacceptable, and I certainly stand by that.
Well, I'll come on to that in a moment. But you knew Annunciata Rees-Mogg, her brother, was in the cabinet, but you still paraded her. Well, you knew he was a Tory.
Well, actually,
you paraded her, and now you say, "Oh, well, it's just she's doing this simply because her brother is a Tory."
Well, at the time,
that's not right.
At the time, Jacob Rees-Mogg was an outright opponent of Mrs. May's so-called deal. Twice voted against it, and then on the third time...
I think the Tories need to get the plug pulled anyway. I mean, they were so close to a change in politics, and I think we need to have a different type of political ideology in, because Boris said he was going to be a liberal and libertarian, and that's the least thing he's doing with this virus. He's acting more like a conservative for the CCP party.
He's voted for it. Look, that's up to people.
I mean, she is an intelligent woman in her own right. She makes up her own mind, don't you accept
that? Well, she doesn't understand what is happening in the Labour seats in which we are standing. I'll give you one little example of what's going on in the country right now, and how not only have we poleaxed the Lib Dems, but we're also damaging Labour. There isn't much constituency polling out there, but one that there is Grimsby. Grimsby, which has been Labour since the end of World War II. Have a look at the scores on the doors. Brexit Party up 17% in that constituency, the Labour Party down 18% in that constituency, and with no overall rise in vote share, the Conservatives now have a chance of winning Grimsby.
You don't?
In Grimsby, the Conservatives, because of what we've done, will probably win. And millions of those Labour voters out there would never, ever vote Conservative.
But you see,
So the argument, the argument that's being made, that we all have to vote Conservative, otherwise we'll split the vote.
That's what she says.
She's wrong.
And so does three of her colleagues.
And they're wrong. They don't
but
understand
she may be wrong, but you seem to be pleasing nobody. Because on your decision that you mentioned not to contest Tory-held seats, another of your MEPs...
historically, this is going to be seen to get us out of EU as tremendous. So Nigel did it, but the globalists, it's not like a battle and then the war's finished with the globalists. The globalists are on an online agenda, and if they lose a battle, they'll just redirect to pursue with their online agenda. The wee Nippy is just a globalist show for them. She's just a wee show, but all of the political parties, the Conservatives, the Labour Party in Scotland, the Greens, the SNP, all of these are globalist show parties. So if you've voted excuse me, if you voted for Brexit and you maybe want to reduce immigration, and you're voting for any of these five parties, you're just voting against yourself if that's what your underlying issues are. If you've got other issues, but I mean, if you've got other issues like Nicola Sturgeon's been a disaster for the hospitals, the schools, I mean, she's been incompetent in the actual day-to-day running of the country. So I don't know why you'd be voting for her based on her track record. I actually voted for Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Salmond before her. But I wouldn't be, by her record, she's shown to be incompetent.
Not one of the four today says that she has been, quote, disenfranchised by my own party.
What's my baby Guerilla saying? All politicians and the people, that's why I refuse to vote. Well, you should definitely vote. Yeah, you have to. You do your political compass test. Find out where you are in the political spectrum. Show me it. You can email me at the guerillatvchannel at gmail.com, and you can send me it, and I'll tell you which one is going to be the best fit for you. If you don't know yourself, I'll certainly explain. I'll try and explain it to you. If you want to do it that way, I'll certainly try and help you. I think he's a shill too. Well, Nigel might have been I don't think Nigel's a shill. I think Nigel has done too much to actually get us out of the EU to be a shill. Could have been slightly compromised later on down the political road by the British establishment, potentially, but I still don't see it. They've still set up the Reform Party. Tim Rice is good. There's some good underlying policies if they actually get them implemented and they win a majority in the Parliament. And it's still an alternative to the Conservative Party. So you're going to vote for their liberal, undemocratic Democrats or Labour, who are, you just wouldn't. Even though I'm from the working class, I still wouldn't be voting for Labour or the lunatic Greens, certifiables. So I'm a man and I don't want to pay for abortions. Right, well, there we go. Let's hear a bit more, Nigel.
He's nobody. Who's that? It is Alexandra Phillips, MEP. Well, it breaks my heart. I've been disenfranchised. Another candidate has said your talk of putting country before party is, quote, absolute codswallop. Nigel Farage has exposed his duplicity to so many supporters who put their faith in him.
Sorry.
He's a disgrace to politics. These are your own people. These are your people.
Yeah, I saw that. And yet every one of them knew when I recruited them as candidates, they could be stood down. If we move the Conservative Party a bit further, perhaps we'll come to whether that's going to happen or not. Look, I could have stood in 600 seats. There would have been at least 24 Liberal Democrat wins in the south and the southwest of England. Right. That would have taken us closer to a second referendum. I did not want to do that.
And this will be seen in years to come as a brilliant political move. It was the correct political thing to do. Without a shadow of a doubt, even although Bojo's been absolutely atrocious so far, this was completely the correct thing to do.
That. And I did take a decision that was country before party.
And a lot of people don't like it. Well, you're attacked from all sides of your own party.
Well,
I mean, it's the same old story, Nigel Farage. We saw it with UKIP. We saw it with UKIP. It's happening again with the Brexit Party. Any party you lead soon descends into chaos and acrimony.
Well, I'll tell you what, any party I lead does do. It shifts the centre of gravity in British politics in a very dramatic way.
And doesn't win seats in the House of Commons.
Well, but do you have to do that to change politics? Well, in this case, in this election, what we need to do is to get established a bridgehead of Brexit Party MPs. And the worry I've got in this election, and this is the genuine worry I've got, if I go to Doncaster, if I go to Barnsley, if I go to Hartlepool, all right, these kind of seats, again, that have never been Conservative in living memory and are very unlikely to be Conservative at any point in the near future. We are the challengers to Labour in those seats, and the vote that is being split is the Brexit vote by the Conservative Party in those seats.
Is it acceptable to call Islam a child rapist death cult?
Yes, and it's completely accurate, Fat Andy. So this is why, Andy, this is what I said. So let's examine why I said it, shall we? Let's have a wee. So Fat Andy then complained about that. So let's have a wee look at this. Now, I've already done this before. And why did I do it? Independent. Child. Pakistan. Oh, right. Oh, here we go. Now, I've already done all this. So, Pakistan prevented from banning child marriage because it's un-Islamic. So, basically, child rape would be called here. So, under 16s, the only time I would say if there's a train spotting event where you've been deceived into doing something, but if you're actively going out to have sex with children, then obviously that's illegal. So Pakistan prevented from banning child marriage because it's un-Islamic. So there it is, right there. There it is right there. Pakistani lawmakers have withdrawn a bill amid a curbing the practice of child marriage after prominent religious body declares the legislation un-Islamic. The bill, which proposed raising the marriage age for females from 16 to 18, called for harsher penalties for those who arrange marriages involving children. And these are not children; these are under the age of 16. Estimated that some 20% of children are married before they're 18. I think it's even younger than that. Don't forget, child marriage from the Islamic sources goes from the age of, well, Muhammad was 6. Muhammad was, I think, 56, and Aisha was 6. And when they get married, and they consummated the marriage at 9 when she hit puberty. So anything from 9 upwards is Islamic to have sex with. So I don't know what your problem is there, Andy. I've already just proved it. I've already just proved why I said it. So let's go. So he didn't ask me to say what I was going to say. He just asked Nigel. Now, Nigel did not know why I said it, what I said, and what was actually going on. Didn't know about me being held for 2 years and allowed to starve on the streets in Dubai. So Nigel was blindsided by this question. So what Fat Andy should have done, if he wanted to ask me, he should ask me himself.
I don't remember doing that ever in my life.
No, I'm not accusing you.
Good, I'm pleased about that.
But is it acceptable?
No, it wouldn't be. Why?
Why would it not be acceptable? It's true. It's true. The sun is round and it's orange. The grass is green. The sky is blue. And Islam rapes kids. What's the problem? And wants to kill people. It wants to kill homosexuals. It wants to stone to death adulterous women. It wants to kill apostates. It wants to kill people who blaspheme against it. As we can see in England now, where the government, rather than actually cracking down on a bunch of Islamists, are allowing the teacher to be bullied and threatened out of their school, and on the pain of getting their head cut off, which we already saw that happened in France. So what is it exactly that I've said that's incorrect, Fat Andy? Why don't you ask me to my face, and rather than being a coward and hiding behind what you're actually behind your BBC screen, and not asking me directly?
Because the candidate you're running in Edinburgh South West has said that.
Me?
Is that why we got rid of them?
Yeah, well, if you got rid of me, I was still standing anyway, because it was already on as a candidate. Everything I've just said is true. So there's nothing. Why would you get rid of somebody that said something that's true? Oh, somebody said something that was true. So it just shows you. Let me see what you guys are saying. No parents should be allowed to decide what the future husband their female child should be wed to. That's correct. I totally agree. It would sink us. Tell us this is free. Scotland could never leave the Union. We'd have nothing of value to offer the world. It's been all sold off. We could do high tech. Weak government, scared to say boo. Exactly. I don't think it's weak. It's been actually deliberately done. It's been orchestrated this way. They've already sold us out. And without telling us, without us voting on it through their manifestos, they've never told us. And they just lie because they all know they've already sold us out. They've sold us out for our corporations to gain access to the greater MENA area, and don't care about us and what actually happens to us. So that's the point.
I'm not aware that you have.
I'm sure we have.
Do you know?
No, at the time they hadn't, but Nigel obviously didn't know this. It doesn't bother me, because I'm still going to be standing again. So you can take that to the bank, and next time you want to ask me, you can speak to my face, Andrew, or unless you want to say, oh, I'm not talking to you, like Peter Smith. Oh, I'm not talking to you, you said something nasty. I didn't say anything nasty. I said exactly what was in the Quran. So it's like me saying the Lord of the Rings has got hobbits and goblins and a dragon, etc. I said exactly what's in the Quran, and it's much worse than that. I could have gone into a lot more minutiae, but I knew that I got the leading journalist task, probably the leading non-mainstream politician on the British television to actually say this, and let's see if I was correct. So let's have a wee look at what Fat Andy's saying now, eh? Oh, Fat Andy, it just shows you what a few months can make, isn't it? Let's have a wee look at this.
We've reached a stage, though, where, as you say, violence is threatened, because...
violence is threatened from the child rapist death cult. Oh, I wonder who could have warned you about that. And then you're castigating me and saying I should be kicked out of a party for actually saying that this is going to be a problem. All right, Fandy. Now there's threats to chop off teachers' heads while the government don't even do anything about it. The teacher union's paying the people who are distributing the person's address through their Islamist contacts, and the government and the police are doing nothing about it. All right, well, you better kick that guy out of the party then.
You quote in your excellent article that...
Oh, it's excellent. I bet it's a belter.
Unless the government stops this, unless the government makes sure no other teacher even thinks of doing this, the quote you give, we are not responsible for the actions of some individuals.
Right, so that's a direct threat. So now we've got the Muslims actually threatening our government, threatening individuals here with beheading. And this is going to go down a really, really dark path. This is going, and the government are obviously have sided with the Islamists now, but not taking any action.
If you don't do this, that's a threat.
That's a threat. So some of these.
So the death cult's threatening British teachers now. Never, and the teacher has to move on the pain in his own country on the pain of being with his head chopped off. And it's definitely not a death cult. Definitely not. I was completely wrong. Nigel was completely right to kick me out of the party. Or kick me out of. They didn't actually do that. I still stood and still got seats. But now we've got Sawar not answering any questions on the raping of children in Glasgow by Muslims as well. And I'm getting called a racist for talking about a religion. Oh my goodness.
Self-appointed community faith leaders essentially have said to the Prime Minister, can you believe it? I mean, the sheer chutzpah on the goal of this, telling the Prime Minister that unless you bring in and enforce some form of blasphemy, then...
So the in the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah, the actual punishment for blasphemy is death. So it's definitely not a death cult, because in this, the punishment for blasphemy is being executed. So that's not a death cult law. Definitely not.
There may be some action, i.e. a threat and an inference of threat there. Now, the reality is those kind of statements should be consigned to, as I said, the dust. People
should be going to jail.
The hard reality is this. It's over for that teacher now.
Oh, well, that's great then. So in this country now, with multicultural, multi-religious, it is over for the teacher. The government and the state are siding with the Islamists who are wanting to execute this individual, and he's the problem, not the Islamists or the greater situations happening to Muslims. It's the teacher that's a problem for showing the cartoon. So I would suggest that the problem isn't the teacher.
That teacher's life has been changed forever.
Well, I would suggest we start kicking them out of the country. So we just get them on the plane and kick them out. Do you think in a Muslim country, I'd be able to threaten a Muslim and try to chop his head off if he'd done something bad to me? Do you know how fast I would have been out of the country? They would just not have accepted that. Having been deported from a country, a Muslim country, and after being them attacking a Pakistani taxi driver attacking me, who admitted to attacking me, I was kicked out of the country. So we're allowing Muslim fascists to actually now dictate what's right and what's wrong in Scotland. And even Nigel's not got the chutzpahs to actually defend the rights of the children or the rights of the teacher. In fact, Andy's saying, oh, well, well, I would suggest anybody who's involved in the group chat that circulated the name should be going to jail. I would have been getting rid of all those people outside the school. I don't think a protest outside the school's appropriate either.
That teacher's family has been changed forever.
Well, that's great. Well, and it'll be great because we're obviously letting more and more people in. We don't know who they are from France. So the situation, I don't think is going to get better. It's going to get worse. Would that be correct?
Who else is going to do this now? They're going to think real twice about doing this when they see...
Oh, right. It's the problem showing a cartoon. Problem isn't what I suggested a way back when you were criticising me 2 years ago. Right, Fat Andy. So you're on the side of the Islamists as well. So you have decided to morally take the side of the actual Islamists who are advocating killing people, and that's what you're actually wanting to do. And you're taking them. So it's not the Muslims that's a problem. It's not Islam that's a problem. It's the teacher showing a cartoon. That's from your own words.
What's happened to this teacher?
There is a lot of truth in what you've just said. The fact of the matter is this individual is going to sadly and depressingly have to watch their back for just trying to elicit.
So in Britain, you now are going to have to watch your back for doing a cartoon, but the mass rapes of children all over England, no problem there. In fact, the actual 4 people who were in I think it was the Rochdale gang, haven't even been deported. and they were involved in some horrific crimes. He's still walking about in the streets of down in Rochdale, and Priti Patel, oh, we're going to be dead tough in immigration, while boats in the middle of a pandemic are flying in at an all-time rate from France, the war-torn country of France.
Learning and teaching, which was not targeting, let me be clear, a Muslim student. That would be distinctly different. This was about conversation.
It shouldn't make any difference. Shouldn't make any difference. I don't care. It shouldn't be the right for you to be offended that you are going to then start to... I'm offended by Islam. Islam says to kill non-believers. Says repeatedly. In fact, I think in Malaysia that they actually say that to kill people who do not believe in God. They would actually kill them. So this promotes violence. It's an ideology that promotes violence. It's not even hatred. It's past the hate speech bills that Hamza Useless be in. I think they must be exempting Islam for hate speech because it goes into the violence and promotes violence. Yeah, this has been propagated throughout the UK now.
Understanding, dialogue, things that people go to school to learn about. It wasn't about an attack on Islam. It was about that dialogue. And this individual has lost their profession, and as you said, will be...
Why have they lost the profession? And I believe it was in the curricula. Why have they lost their profession if they were doing something that's in the curricula? How does that work? Why from a baying mob? So if it was a baying mob of skinheads who didn't want somebody who was black, say for instance, right? Not just for example, and they could go and target the teacher, and then the government would capitulate to that. There's something far deeper going on in this, with the reserves to this, with the collusion of our government. They're not even backed up somebody who's getting death threats.
Watching their shoulder for the rest of their life. Sadly.
Oh, right. Well, that's totally acceptable. Is this the new multicultural society we're going to come in? So if that means going to go down that room, I want to be armed. I want to be like the United States, and I want to be armed. If you're telling me that the people you're letting into this country can't even control themselves, that they might want to kill you, I want to have firearms. I want to be armed. If you've allowed people in who have got a material threat to us, I want the right of self-defence.
And that is a sad indictment of where we are. If today in 2021 we cannot defend the core values of our country, and I end on saying this, which are also the fundamental core values of Islam.
No, they're not. No, they're not. There's no liberal democracies. There's maybe democracies like Turkey and maybe Nigeria, and there's a very few democracies, but they're certainly not liberal, and they certainly come under the auspices of Sharia, which is a brutally disgusting ideology, a set of laws. It wants to kill atheists, wants to kill homosexuals, wants to kill apostates underneath this fascism that is Islam. Nothing is liberal or democratic about Islam, so it's counter to a liberal Western democracy. But as we know, we've already been signed up to another ideology. What's my baby Guerilla saying? Hello there, hi there. Refugees are being sent here, and we are receiving billions of commodities from their countries to look after them. It's fake news to tell us. Nigel Farage won't tell you this, yeah. Guerrillas, you get their arms and legs chopped off if you look at their women wrong. Exactly, I wish Trump would buy Scotland. Weak government scare them. So I mean, it's just absolutely huge. So let's see what else has happened to another British man. And let's see what's happened to Alex.
Live across the world for a Wednesday, this is the Voice of Reason. It's the peak of the week. It's Alex Belfield live on the number one argy-bargy of the airwaves. Yes, twice as big as LBC and Talk Radio put together. Who could believe a man from his kitchen could be the new face of radio and TV? The ugliest face you've ever seen. Yes, I am the ugliest man on the radio, deeply unattractive, but that doesn't mean I'm not a nice person. This is a show where you can have a say about anything you want to say. Slightly different tonight. going to try something a bit different. I am getting lured into conversations I don't want to be lured into sometimes, and I'm being a little too polite. I found myself giving people a little more rope to hang themselves than they deserve. So you might notice I'm going to be a little bit more abrupt tonight. We're going to try first-time callers again for the first 45 minutes, which is only fair because so many people can't get through. We're going to try doing it a little quicker and at my pace, not at yours. So forgive me if you think I'm being rude, but I'm here to do a show. And the show will be driven by me, and the pace in which the show goes will be down to the sort of amount of sort of right foot I put on the accelerator. So I'll decide how fast we go, and we will have no names, we'll have no pack drill, and we'll have a laugh too if we can. I just got off the phone with Andrew, by the way, our friend who was living in the flat. Do you remember up in Lancashire? And basically, it's very interesting because he's got a guy, marvellous. I found it straight away. I don't need a producer. Birmingham Nightingale Hospital closes without a single patient being treated. The temporary hospital was set up less than 10 days, anticipating large numbers that never happened. Why? because we did not crucify the NHS, despite what they were anticipating. The facility at the NEC complex cost nearly £65 million. It was set up last April, money. And it's now been taken down because we never needed it. The NHS wasn't on its knees, and we didn't need to save the NHS after all, because they save us every time, because they're angels, the people who work there. I'm talking about the doctors and nurses, not those up in the offices counting paper clips.
Disgraceful, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't make it. Nothing makes any sense. Listen, I'm sure tonight we're going to touch on AstraZeneca. I'm sure we're going to touch on. We have had my lawyers. Mr. Bramman has been working his fingers to the bone, and Nottingham police lawyers have been in touch from the complaints people. That only happened today. And we understand the Home Office now has a line. In fact, I'm going to read you the line. Would you like to hear the line that is being given? Let me find a copy of it. This is the line from... I have to find it. Hang on. Oh, I should have saved it. But this is really interesting. How they're referring. So bearing in mind, I was arrested 5 times for very serious allegations that were basically emails telling the truth and making YouTube videos. People who had never met me, never had any contact with me, who just lied. I mean, obsessed trolls, mentally ill people who wanted to tell lies to the police to get me gagged, shut up, which worked for 10 months for them. It's not going to work very much longer. And then we got a corrupt police force that changed bail and all that. Well, this is now this is the statement that the Home Office have made MPs say. Now, what do you make of this? Thank you for bringing this issue to my attention. This is the standard reply from every MP. While I'm not able to comment specifically and in detail on the case you have mentioned, as a general principle, it is important that the law protects freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, the rule of law, and the equal rights to define us as a society, and I am determined to promote those values actively. Thank you for contacting me. Now, this one.
Alex Belfield's been persecuted by the BBC through Nottingham Police, and he's had his house door kicked in, all his stuff stolen by the police, and just because he's had a problem with the BBC. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't really know. I've not followed it in depth, and I don't know what the underlying issue is, but certainly the police keep kicking in his door, and he seems to have been raided about 5 times. So he's obviously another person in the UK that's been persecuted.
One came from Heather Wheeler, who is a member of Parliament for South Derbyshire. That's just one example. I won't give the person's name, but there's the email that was sent. We've had hundreds of these emails sent. Now, isn't it interesting that standard reply doesn't mention any criminality on my part? All it mentions 3 times is free speech. I think heads are rolling. Don't you think this is a turn in the tide? We've heard nothing from any of these officers, nothing from the bail people, nothing from magistrates' courts, nothing. Yet what we do get is a standard line from the Home Office where free speech is mentioned 3 times. I think the tide is turning, and I feel a tsunami coming at those who wanted to abuse the system, waste public money. And we must remember, I'm going to guess it's between £500,000 and £1 million the police have wasted on trying to investigate me over nothing. It's huge amounts of money.
It's a complete complete joke because it wasn't that long ago that we were in a situation where there wasn't this magic money tree and they're trying to save as much money as possible, and now they may spend that much money dealing with you.
And we haven't got to compensation yet, and I'm not letting this go. No. I will sue every single person that has lied and cheated. And for those who continue to be bonkers and continue witch hunts and continue to libel and defame, good luck. There's going to be letters popping through your cat flap, because I'm not stopping. I can't let this go. These people wanted, lest we forget, they wanted me silenced, gagged, off air, in prison and or dead. That's what this was, all orchestrated by the corrupt lawyers at the BBC. Now let's go. Yeah. Come on, let's get in front of a judge. I like it. Sir, thank you for your call.
Thank you. I really appreciate everything you do. I love your channel.
Well, I love you more, and there's nothing you can do about it. Younger audience believed police station and looked at my arsehole, and then one of them tried to intimidate me and, most importantly, get me off the air. Sorry about your luck. Not only was I on the air before I was in the back of the van, but thanks to you, I'm now 30,000 subscribers bigger. And Crime Bodge did write to me, and for good, that's Sajid Javid's words, not mine. And of course, we know that George Floyd was a career criminal with narcotics in his body, so he certainly isn't a hero. I think we can all agree that. Right, back to the phones we go for a Wednesday. It's 17 after 9. Let's go to line 1252.6. Hello, who's calling?
I wonder if that's myself.
So, let's go back to Nigel.
Do you know something? Any attempt that gets made to try and paint the Brexit Party into being a right-wing political party.
I'm not right-wing. I'm a libertarian liberal. Being a right-wing and anti-Islamic does not... Anybody who's libertarian should be anti-Islamic, because Islam's an authoritarian political ideology as well as religion. And but it also promotes violence. So anybody... You don't have to be right-wing. You just have to be anti-violence and anti the promotion of violence and the hatred as well. It promotes hate as well. Abuse of women, abuse of homosexuals, anti-Semitic. I mean, it would be the natural state to not to be Islamic.
Would harbour anybody with extreme views.
I don't have extreme views. I'm a milquetoast liberal. I'm a centrist libertarian liberal. I don't have extreme views. I know what Islam says because a Muslim gave me the Quran when I was in jail and I read it. I didn't have any view on it. I used to live with Muslims in the same house as them. I loved them. They were great. I didn't have extreme views to them. I got the Quran and read it and couldn't believe what I was reading. Sex slavery, marrying children. It's okay, but if, maybe back in the day you were marrying children, but if you take Islam as the literal, if you were a literalist and take Islam at a literal value and bring it into the current day, then it's going to cause problems, isn't it?
Is completely and utterly wrong.
He's on the ballot as the Brexit Party candidate.
Well, it's irrelevant. But the fact is, I'm still a liberal and I'm still a centrist and I don't have extreme views. Being anti-Islamic is not an extreme view.
If we found out later and we sacked him subsequently, there is...
So I was still on the ballot, so they couldn't really sack me anyway. So I couldn't be sacked. But that doesn't matter. And Nigel didn't know at the time that I had been held for 2 years and allowed to starve on the streets in a Muslim country. I don't know if Fat Andy did. Yeah, he certainly didn't bring that aspect up. He only brought out the worst aspect, or the most controversial aspect, which was what I actually said, which I've continually been proven to be correct. About that. I don't think it's me that's the extremist who's wanted to chop off a teacher's head for showing a cartoon. I would say that's the extremist, Andy, not me. I don't think me calling it out, knowing that this is going to happen, and you actually sort of very tentatively defending that sort of behaviour, is me being the extremist.
There isn't much we can do. But you know something? You can say that of all the parties.
Is it acceptable to say Islam is the problem, and until we destroy them?
I never said this, so this is not my quote. This is not me saying this, and I don't believe in destroying Islam. I believe in having debates with people who are Muslims, not destroying them.
The world will never be a safer place.
I've no idea what you're talking about. All I can tell you, Andrew, is we are in terms of the mix.
I never said that, so I didn't say that, and I refute that. I don't know why that is. But because Fat Andy doesn't want to actually have a dialogue with me, if you were going to quote somebody, why are you quoting on the BBC to Nigel, who doesn't know any context of what he's actually talking about there? And why are you not saying it to me, Fat Andy? Why are you not saying it to me? Why did you not get me in the BBC? And you could ask them yourself, because you knew I would have torn you one.
Mix of our candidates. If I look at what we put forward for the European elections, we had more diversity of background, of class, of race than any other party.
I've never mentioned anyone.
Candidate in Birmingham Ladywood.
Right, so that's obviously not me. So that second quote was not me. I do not advocate violence. Unlike the Quran.
Absolutely zero idea.
Nigel probably didn't know this. Nigel would not have had, it was all very rushed, and Nigel would not have had an understanding of what each of the candidates. Nigel wouldn't have put that in context. Fat Andy's just taking that out of context, didn't have the gall to actually ask me to my face, and asking Nigel, who I would suspect didn't have a clue what it was about and what context it was in.
Well, he's your candidate.
Is it
flying under your flag?
This is the guy from Birmingham.
In terms of the mix of our candidates,
acceptable to say Islam is the problem, and until we destroy
that wasn't me.
The world will never be a safer place.
I've no idea what you're talking about. All I can tell you, Andrew, is we are, in terms of the mix of our candidates. If I look at what we put forward for the European elections, we had more diversity of background, of class, of race than any other party.
He's your candidate in Birmingham Ladywood.
Right, so that was me then, obviously. And I actually don't advocate any violence either. I have a debate not advocating violence.
Absolutely zero idea. How would I?
Well, he's your candidate.
Is it
flying under your flag?
Very good. Well, I'm not a walking encyclopedia, sorry.
And you don't know if action has been taken against him by your party? Until we destroy them, Muslims.
I disavow that. I don't agree in destroying Muslims. Some of my close friends were Muslims and Arabs, and I loved them. I agree with that. I don't agree with the Syrian war. This is an ideological debate against the tyranny of Islam, not against individual people who may happen to be Muslim.
I'm sure if some idiots slipped through the net, they will have been got rid of.
Don't class myself as an idiot, thanks, Nigel. I think I probably have a greater understanding of Islam than you, having lived in the Middle East, speaking Arabic, and actually have read the Quran. So I don't class myself as an idiot. Having a degree, being a qualified stockbroker, financial advisor, head of 2 Forex companies, I don't class myself as an idiot, thanks. But I can speak for myself, but what you guys do is want to shut down the debate and don't actually debate me because you know that I'll beat you.
On the ballot.
Any anti-Semites there as well? Or couldn't you find any? Are they all standing for Labour?
They're on the Labour Party.
Simple question.
But don't forget, communism, which obviously Steptoe was a communist, and Islam, which there's a large Islamist percentage now in the Labour Party, and National Socialism, both David Duke. Don't forget, the Ku Klux Klan was set up by Democrats, so there would be left wing. David Duke and the leader of the BNP supported Jeremy Corbyn. So we already know that there's the anti-Semitism was rife in the Labour Party.
Who do you want to be Prime Minister on the 13th?
Not Jeremy Corbyn, obviously, because it's going to be, well,
who do you want?
It's going to be Boris Johnson.
So there you go. That's Fat Andy trying to take something out of context, not actually leaving the bigger point. So let's go for this. What else have we got? Just round up. Have we got anything else here? Right. That's Alex. So let's go into this. If there's anything interesting, what's my baby Guerilla saying? BBC best at buffing children. I mean, Andrew's in talking about an organisation that's got a person who raped their children and the dog as the sculptor outside the front of it. I mean, really? And if Nigel says he must be happy, he must be happy. And we are making plans for Nigel. We loved you, Guerilla. We love you, Guerilla. Well, there you go, guys. I tell you, I don't pull my punches. These guys are too. They'll just shout racist. I don't believe in race. I don't believe people that look like me are a different race. So I'm not a racist. But they'll just shout racist or far right to shut you down when I'm a centrist, libertarian, liberal. I keep saying this. But that's what they want to do when they've got the weirdest and most extreme perversions and views that you could potentially get. So we look, what we got? We got anything here? I want to see what I've got here. Oh, this made me laugh. So this is a guy called Dave Llewellyn. So apparently I support a party, and he's talking about the SNP. So this Dave Llewellyn has moved from the SNP to the Alba Party. So apparently I support a party made up of transphobes, a made-up word, and adulterers by someone who supports a party led by two adulterers, one of whom, he's talking about Nicola Sturgeon and Mr. Morell, one of whom is being investigated for perjury and fraud, so that's Morell, and the other who can't remember she's married to the baldy magpie guy and not have the attaché from the French consul, and not the attaché from the French consul. Obviously, there's been allegations that Nicola Sturgeon is in a lesbian relationship. That's why she hates men, especially white men, but hates men who is having an affair with a French consul. So it's not just me that knows about this. And I'm not connected to the SNP, so this is obviously people who internally within the SNP who know this. And obviously I brought it up outside the High Court to Alex Salmond by shouting at him. If you want to fight in the sewers, come on down. That's where I'm best. And so some of the comments are, that's made me laugh out loud, bloody brilliant. Oh, David, that's great. They're picking a fight with the wrong guy. Piss myself effing laughing. Can't quite put my finger on why, but I feel another time out in the offing. Sometimes about glass houses and stones springs to mind. Oh dear, that had to be pinned. Oh, that's absolutely superb. Oh, here's wee Nippy. Here's Nippy.
Free school meal provision.
Right.
Oh, today we are setting.
We should start bringing them up on it's not free. The taxpayers paying for it, so nothing's free. The socialists will keep telling you it's free. It's not free. The only thing that's free is the £600,000 that have disappeared from the SNP's bank account, where the three members of the audit committee resigned. Only Mr. Morell, and the police are now investigating, apparently.
Oh, today we are setting out the SNP's plans to extend free school meal provision to all primary school children all year round.
Emotional tie and emotional tug at the thing. Why don't you just grow the economy so we get richer? But you don't want to do that.
And as well as free lunches.
Free lunches. Free this, free that. It's not. None of it's free, and all of it takes away from taxpayers who are generating wealth in the country to you, whatever pet project that you want to do. All seem increasingly irrelevant, ridiculous, in the fact that you can't grow the economy.
We're going to introduce free breakfasts, and this is part of our plan to continue the progress we've made. You haven't made any progress. In fact, you probably not only held Scotland back, but actually regressed Scotland. Especially in the fact that you would not even released the education report so that parents can actually value what you've done in the last period of time. I think the pandemic has made us all think again about what really matters. We've seen the
not voting for you.
Pandemic affect everybody, but disproportionately affect people living in poverty. And I think as we come out of this, as we recover, then we've got...
You put us in it. You put us in a situation with a virus that's 99.9% survivable for, I think, everybody under 50. That would be like locking down and destroying all these businesses for something that has got a less of a mortality rate than the actual flu. And you've destroyed everybody's business and reduced the overall growth in the Scottish economy, and also preventing reproduction. Unless you're actually staying with somebody and living with a partner, then people who are single can't go out and meet each other. We have to start being disobedient to the political class, both the Tories and the SNP.
To redouble our efforts to tackle inequality and lift people.
Well, to tackle inequality, start growing the economy then, getting high-tech, high-growth jobs in.
And particularly children out of poverty. And when children are in school...
See, when some politicians talking about equality, you know they're talking about lowering everybody's equality, not raising everybody's equality up. We're not... Equality is an irrelevance of a political term. We're never going to be equal. Is Nicola Sturgeon going to give me half her money to make us equal? No, is she? No, she's not. So this is just empty platitudes from a politician.
I think the stigma for younger children of some people getting free school meals and others not is something we should wash away, and that's... All
right, so we're all getting free school meals, so you're going to dictate to my child what they can and can't eat by giving everybody the same free school meals. I mean, it's just communist nonsense, this is. Absolute communist nonsense. And there seems to be a big problem in Northern Ireland.
Various parts of Northern Ireland are totally unacceptable. There can be no place in our society for violence or the threat of violence, and it must stop. Just as it was wrong in the past and was never justified, so it is wrong now and cannot be justified. The injury to frontline officers, victims terrorised, damage to people's property, the harm to Northern Ireland's image in this, our centenary year, has taken us backwards. And no brick, no bottle, no petrol bomb thrown has achieved or can ever achieve anything but destruction, harm and fear. Today is not the time to rehearse the arguments of this last number of weeks. Safe to say that we should all know well that when politics fail or are perceived to be failing in Northern Ireland, then those who fill the vacuum offer destruction and despair. We cannot allow a new generation of our young people to fall victim to that path or be preyed upon by some who prefer the shadows to the light. So political problems require political solutions, never street violence. Northern Ireland is faced with a number of deep and significant political challenges in the time ahead, and collectively we must work through those challenges, because responsible leadership will not cherry pick the problems that are easiest. Responsible leadership means actively listening to views that people may not agree with or want to hear. Responsible leadership will not deny the existence of the most political difficult challenges or wish them away. And responsible leadership will not leave things to fester or to worsen.
She's actually rather good. I met what's her Arlene Foster. I met Arlene before. So this guy, apparently an NFL pro, kills doctor. Football messed him up. Dad of NFL player blames concussion for him shooting dead the doctor neighbour who treated him along with the doctor's wife and 2 grandchildren. I think he shot himself as well. NFL player Philip Adams suspected of carrying out a mass shooting in Rock Hill, South Carolina that killed 5, so he was one of them, I think. Grandchildren 5 and 8, Noah 5 and Adam 8. Worked in the so there was 5 people killed in the house. Robert 70, Barbara 60, grandchildren Noah 5 and Adam 8. 38 who worked in Leslie also killed. Former NFL player Philip Adams, who was a 5 people, as well as well-respected doctor who had been treating the physician's wife and 2 grandchildren before turning the gun himself in South Carolina. Oh, that's rather sad. Yeah, poll shows Alba ending SNP's hopes of a majority. Wow. So here we go. This is actually quite interesting. There's old Scary Eyes there. But not a bad interview by Peter.
Drugs who are on the front lines. Scotland now has the worst drug death record anywhere in the developed world. ITV News has done a series of investigations on this. We're hearing from people who are using drugs, who are on the front lines working with people who are using drugs, charities, experts, who are saying that the Scottish Government has not used the powers it has well enough or quickly enough, and that that's cost lives.
Well, we are using the powers that we have, and we will continue to do that, and we are working with experts through a task force, and we'll continue to do that to look at all of the options we have to tackle what is a completely unacceptable public health emergency. We have a lot of powers at our own disposal, and just a few weeks ago I announced additional investment for drug treatment services.
4 years
which is
ago your
important.
government reduced its funding for drug addiction
3 years
services.
ago we increased the funding, and we've done it again.
But you've reduced it by £15 million.
I mean, honestly, it's just, I understand politicians have to sometimes spin a good yarn, but it's like lie after lie after lie after lie, isn't it? I mean, really?
4 years ago, this decision made, you were warned, there was a cross-party meeting, you were warned that reducing the funding for addiction services would lead to an increase in death. You carried on with it anyway, and sure enough, the drug death rate shot up. After that decision was made, the drug death rate shot up. You were warned that's what would happen. I just wonder if you could, since you made that decision, since the funding was reduced by the government, more than 3,000 people have died of drug-related death in Scotland. Do you think you could tell those families that that was the right decision?
I would. Look, I'm not going to sit here and try to, argue this in a political way. This is serious. It's an issue I take seriously. The government is working to do all of the things that we can within our power.
But this is specifically the allegation that you've not taken this decision. You said the task force. The task force was announced in March. They took 6 months to have their first and only meeting.
It's important to get the right people around that table.
They're not going to report their findings until next year. All of the
a bit like the education report. So Nicola's hiding all our complete incompetence till after the election. I mean, really unbelievable. So not bad with Peter there.
Indications, First Minister, are
but we are
that next year's drug death record is going to break this year's one. It's going to be even higher. So there'll be more than 1,000 people who have died again before we've even heard from your task force.
And also drug suicide. So some people obviously commit suicide if they're on a downer as well. So although they might not be on the drugs, they may have a come down and then they could be susceptible for suicide. So we don't know exactly how many people actually die from drugs and drug car crashes and whatever else.
There's an awful lot of talking going on while people are dying.
There is a lot. We are taking a...
It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense, honestly. We're going to get another 4 years of her, and she is going to, like what I did there, like Nicola Sturgeon spending your money. There's your money, guys. There's me, Nicky. Oh, and here we go. Look at this. Oh my goodness. If I was right, was I right? Let's see, have a look at this. That's not very good. Can't even reject that. Oh, look at this. Pakistan again. Pakistan PM labelled as rape apologist. Let's just make this a bit bigger. Pakistani labelled as rape apologist for suggesting rise in cases linked to how women dress. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan suffered a ferocious backlash on Wednesday after human rights groups labelled him a rape apologist for seemingly blaming women for the rise in rape cases. Former international cricketer made the comments in a question and answer on Sunday when addressing how the government intended to crack down on worrying rise of sexual offences in the country. World history tells when you increase vulgarity in society. So they want to increasingly conservatise by putting women in bin bags and chopping off their clitorises, which is in the Quran, for them to do. That increase and the family system breaks down. All right, he says. So it's vulgarity. It's not the actual fact that your prophet had sex slaves and wanted to have sex with children. That's the problem. It's vulgarity. Right. Sorry. I didn't get that. This entire concept of purdah is avoid temptation. Not everyone has the willpower to avoid it. Purdah is an Islamic practice of secluding of women from public observation. Yeah, so they basically put women in houses and don't let them come out and don't let them drive and don't let them do anything under threat of being raped, basically. Which is pretty much what they're doing down in England just now, and looks like it's starting to happen in Scotland with children in care homes. That's Anna Sawar didn't want to actually speak about. And obviously it's my fault being labelled a racist for discussing child protection issues. But I see it's not just me that's doing this, it's from Fox. Through concealing clothing and veils or gender segregation. He suggests that it wasn't just down to the government's policy but up to society as a whole to preserve modesty. So what they want to do is victim blame that if a woman is immodest that they're basically asking for it. I think if a woman's naked there's not asking for it. In a bid to turn the tide of sharp increases in rape cases. It's not only rape, what they're doing is they're at gunpoint abducting children from Muslim, Sikh and Hindu and Christian households, having sex with them, even if I think there was a case, there's been multiple cases of children, one was 14, I think there was one younger than that, having sex with them, getting them pregnant at 14, 12, 11, and then forced conversion, and then the Pakistani courts are not even returning them back to the families. They're forcing them to convert to Islam. He comments, his comments have received worldwide condemnation, with human rights groups demanding an apology for remarks. The Kashmir chapter of Women's Action Forum said in a statement, rape is perpetrated by rapists or Islam, as the case may be, and its culture is strengthened by rape apologists and Islam, which is very much a pro-rape ideology. Imran Khan must apologise for the callous and damning remarks and detest for blaming the victims. Yeah, as I said, victim blaming. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan said it was appalled by the comments. Not only does this betrayal a baffling ignorance of where, why and how rape occurs, but it also lays the blame on rape survivors who, as the government must know, can range from young children to victims of honour crimes, all based around Islam. It said Khan's British ex-wife Gemma Goldsmith took to Twitter to blast the comments. She said that she hoped it was a misquote because the Imran I knew used to say put a veil on the man's eyes, not on the woman's. Yeah, I think you were hoodwinked there. I think he was using Talia. So I don't know if you know that correctly. Marion, get them all back to on the boat. By YT, I mean you too tight can't talk about anything without being clamped down. Exactly. They have total disrespect for anyone who's non-Muslim. That's correct. Anyone. I mean, it's not. It could be Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, anybody that's not. Just another day in America. What did the bus do wrong? Yeah, it was Absolute Radio earlier on. It was it was on the Absolute Radio, was it? So said that, and obviously there's more white people killed by black people in America, or African Americans. Keep saying black, man. That's programming African Americans than there is African Americans killed by white people, and the proportions are obviously there's more people, and they only make up, I think, 6.5% of men are African American, whereas 13% are African American. But I think very few women are doing this, whereas there's like 62% are white in America. So it's more being killed by by African Americans in America than white people. So the actual would be completely disproportionate if you multiplied it up to make the numbers equal. It's quite worrying that as well. That's not talked about in the radios. Said to believing men that they restrain their eyes and guard their private parts in the Quran 20:31. It also says to take sex slaves and have sex with women, but the onus is on the men, especially when you put the women in bin bags and stick them in the desert. 22,000 rapes have been reported in Pakistan since 2015, but just 77 people have been convicted as a result, a staggeringly poor return of 0.3%. The culture towards rape has been as an issue for some time, and was again in the public eye last year when a woman who broke down on a motorway at night with her 2 children was gang raped by 2 men. A leading police officer in Lahore investigating the crime was heavily criticised for asking why the woman was out on her own late at night. So obviously there should be male guardians, so they use physical violence against women to bring in Sharia. It's just like the blasphemy law that they're going to bring in for doing cartoons, and the fat bojos just allowed it to happen, with many believing his remark to be implicitly guilt of her part for the horrendous crime. So, sorry, let me say again, with many believing his remarks to be implicating guilt on her part for the heinous attack. Of course it is, victim shaming. So, that's quite interesting as well. What else have we got? But there's also the abuse of Pakistani Sikh and Christian children in this, which has not been raised by our governments as well. Yeah, and there, Georgie Porgy. There's Georgie Porgy. So let me get to Georgie Porgy. So Georgie Porgy is also talking about the manipulation of the...
Well, let's speak to the man himself, shall we? I'm pleased to say George Galloway, the founder of All for Unity, joins us online this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Galloway.
Good evening.
If, as a voter, you're in favour of the union, whether your politics come from the left or the right or the centre, there's already a party representing you, isn't there? What's the point of your party?
Well, they're not doing very well, these other parties, as current polling shows, but as 14 years of failure shows. The reality is that there are many Conservatives who will never vote Labour, many Labour people who will never vote Conservative. So we've got a coalition, an alliance of people of the left, right and centre. Highly successful people from all the professions.
Yeah, I vote for the UK Reform Party or the Brexit or the Scottish Libertarian Party.
And we think that if people vote very tactically and smartly in the constituencies and vote for us on the peach-coloured ballot paper, we can improve the quantity but also the quality of the pro-British forces in the Scottish Parliament.
But the problem is it not, that a lot of these parties, the Tories, the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, get a lot of their seats from that peach-coloured ballot paper. They're scratching around for the same votes. Now you're coming in and splitting that 3-way share 4 ways. You can only do harm to their cause, can't you?
Well, the most divisive thing in Scottish politics is 3rd and 4th place candidates standing in elections when the 2nd and best placed candidate would otherwise win. Anas Sarwar, for example, would win against Nicola Sturgeon if the Tories and the Liberal Democrats weren't standing against him.
Why would Tories want to vote for Sarwar? Sarwar brought in the hate speech bill. He was one of the people that voted for that anti-white hate speech bill. He didn't actually comment on the children being abused who were in care homes by Muslim asylum seekers. He wouldn't even comment on that. I was far right, and then obviously Peter, the wee fat diddy from ITV, came over and said, oh, that's racist, talking about child protection rights. Oh, come on.
Edinburgh, Angus Robertson would never be...
I wouldn't vote for any of them. Why would I vote? I don't want to vote for the Lib Lab Con Party or the SNP or the Greens. I wouldn't want to vote for any of them. A plague in all your houses, including yours, George. You've been in about politics far too long as well. It's time for a change. Time for somebody who's new to this country.
Elected in Edinburgh
politically.
If Labour and the Liberal Democrats didn't stand against them. So it's all about voting smart.
Yeah, just don't vote smart. Don't vote smart. Just vote for somebody else. Vote for the UK Reform Party. Vote for the Scottish Libertarian Party. Let's kick all these guys out. Let's kick them all to the curb. We're not going to lose anything. Nothing. The wheels will not fall off the car if none of these people are in there. We might have a better Scotland comparatively. You could get rid of all of those parties with probably about 20 MPs, and you will not be losing anything from in a political point of view.
Candidates smartly, and that's the
George
big idea.
George,
to the
really is it actually going to be a drain
what's going on?
The unionist cause that you're purporting to be fighting for?
Well, I'm afraid that's just bad mathematics, and the
analyst
in question is a Conservative Party
happening here. Georgie Porgy's gone all quiet on me.
The reality is that parties that have failed
Mr. Porgy, where are you?
Or even stand up properly to the SNP over the last 14 years.
Well,
I'm afraid
I don't know why this does it. This is obviously an issue in the thing. I wouldn't trust Sarwar an inch. She's playing the crowd. He totally is. Yeah, that's right, Emma. I wouldn't trust him either. I wouldn't support them. Yeah, I wouldn't support him either. He's still drinking his cat's milk. Monty, it's bad enough what they do in their own country. It's totally unacceptable that they get to do anywhere else. That's right. No, they don't care. They don't care if you are being affected. They see it's a fascist. Islam is a fascist ideology, and you have to be imposed upon, and that's where our political class is allowed to happen. You have to be imposed upon. Why is Porgy not working?
Former judges
and himself, shall we? I'm pleased to say George Galloway, the founder of All for Unity, joins us on 9 this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Galloway.
Good evening.
If as a voter, here's the thing, you're in favour of question to Willie Rennie.
Why is it, or how is it all about me? What's that mean? Do you put that question to Nicola Sturgeon, or Rennie?
No,
why is it, or how is it all about me? What's that mean? Do you put that question to Nicola
I really want to see
Sturgeon?
that. Let's hope they pay for that can come the election, yeah. Oh, I don't know what's happened there. Sign gone off. Oh, trying to muck about with me. Oh.
Well, I'm afraid that's just bad mathematics, and the analyst in question is a Conservative Party analyst.
System, in an electoral system that you say in your own manifesto today is not fit for purpose.
If the Tories and the Liberal
Let's just go
Democrats...
back again. Let's do it back again.
Well, let's speak to the man himself, shall we? I'm pleased to say George Galloway, the founder of All for Unity, joins us on 9 this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Galloway.
Good evening.
If, as a voter, you're in favour of the union, whether your politics come from the left or the right or the centre, there's already a party representing you, isn't there? What's the point of your party?
Yeah, it's called the Lib Lab Con Party.
Well, they're not doing very well, these other parties, as current polling shows. But as 14 years of failure shows, the reality is that there are many Conservatives who will never vote Labour, many Labour people who will never vote Conservative. So we've got a coalition, an alliance of people of the left, right and centre, highly successful people from all the professions. And we think that if people vote very tactically and smartly in the constituencies and vote for us on the peach-coloured ballot paper, we can improve the quantity but also the quality of the pro-British forces in the Scottish Parliament.
But the problem is it not, that a lot of these parties, the Tories, the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, get a lot of their seats from that peach-coloured ballot paper. They're scratching around for the same votes. Now you're coming in and splitting that three-way share four ways. You can only do harm to their cause, can't you?
Well, the most divisive thing in Scottish politics is third and fourth place candidates standing in elections when the second and best placed candidate would otherwise win.
But that's to say that somebody from the Conservatives is going to vote Labour, or somebody from the Liberal and Democratic Democrats going to vote Labour. A lot of these people hate each other and don't like each other.
Sarwar, for example, would win against Nicola Sturgeon if the...
Yeah, but we don't want Sarwar either. He's just another cheek of the same asshole.
Tories and the Liberal Democrats weren't standing against him. Ditto in Edinburgh. Angus Robertson would never be elected in Edinburgh Central if Labour and the Liberal Democrats didn't stand.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. They've already said it's not going to happen, so it's an unrealistic political aspiration, George.
Against them. So it's all about voting smart, standing candidates smartly. And that's the big idea that we've brought.
I think the SNP are going to do very well on the constituency list. I would definitely vote to get Anna Sarwar out. I would probably even vote for the Labour guy, even if it was just to get Sarwar out. But then you're voting for another Muslim guy that supports Labour, and Labour brought in the hate speech bill just as much as anybody else. But he is a surgeon. Anyway.
To the political table.
Voting smart
unless the Scottish Libertarian Party are running a candidate there, and then I would definitely vote for the Scottish Libertarian Party regardless. I don't know if there's one there yet.
Political system and an electoral system that you say in your own manifesto today is not fit for purpose. You're trying to manipulate that, aren't you? But that's not the political system we're in, really, is it? I saw one piece of analysis today that published by a political strategist company that says unless you get more than 30% of all of the list votes, you're going to be a drain on the unionist cause that you're purporting to be fighting for.
Well.
So there's going to be less unionists, thanks to George. Oh dear, you can write it, can't you? Oh, I'm standing all for unity, and I want to be in a united kingdom, but through my actions we're going to get less candidates.
Well, I'm afraid that's just bad mathematics, and the analyst in question is a Conservative Party analyst. You might have mentioned that.
Yeah.
The reality
you tell him, Georgie Porgy,
is that parties that have failed to stop or even stand up properly to the SNP over the last 14 years are crying out because the new kids on the block are actually attracting a good deal of support. We were already on 4% and winning one seat. If we get 1% more than that, we'll win several seats. 2% more than that, we might hold the balance of power at Holyrood. Wouldn't that be something?
George is the de facto power behind the throne.
This is all about you, isn't it, Mr. Galloway?
That's a good question. I'll give me sure that's 10 out of 10 for that question.
Well, yeah. Why is it, or how is it all about me? What's that?
It's all about you.
Mean? Do you put that question to Nicola Sturgeon?
We already know it's all about her.
Or Willie Rennie?
No,
Wee Willie. Wee Willie.
They've been around a while, and so have their parties.
Listen, we've got candidates, former procurators fiscal, former judges, GPs, farmers, military men, regimental sergeant majors. Are they all standing for me?
Yeah, but...
Yeah. Yeah, they're not standing for me, George.
Well, here's the thing, right? This is why we...
Are they all communists like you, George?
Don't put this question to Willie Rennie and Nicola Sturgeon. It's because you have been on a fairly peculiar political journey compared to them, haven't you? Not so long ago, you said you despised Tories with every beat of your heart, that somebody should shoot you if you were standing shoulder to shoulder with a Tory. And yet here you are, literally standing alongside a Conservative, an old Etonian, an ex-army major under a red, white and blue banner. People are entitled to ask, are they not, who Who are you, George Galloway?
He's a communist. He made it perfectly obvious. He simps for the CCP. He's like the fifth column in Scotland. I've already gone on his show. George Galloway banned me off his show, said he was into free speech, yet banned me off his show. So, I mean, really, come on.
My goodness, you're strangely animated for BBC
This is great.
Scotland. Are you allowed to lose your rag like that?
I'm not losing my rag. I'm putting a perfectly civil question
I think everyone
to you.
watching it already knows that the animus is snorting out of your ears.
There's nothing snorting out of my ears.
Except for the animus. People are saying that the STV, I've not watched STV for a long time, so people are saying the STV are basically Nicola Sturgeon simps.
I assure you, there's an earpiece keeping it in place. Can you just answer the question?
The earpiece is keeping it in place.
I definitely heard you, and so did everyone else.
Yeah, and there, Georgie Porgy, don't take any prisoners, just like the CCP. The CCP.
What serves the Scottish people worst? The politicians at Holyrood or the media that they've got in their pockets?
Well, and obviously, you've all seen what happened with Peter Adam, whatever his name is, with me. And this isn't wrong. Listen to George again, and he's actually correct on this. And I do agree with George sometimes as well, even though he's a commie. Me being a centrist, I'm able to agree with the left and right when it's correct. So Georgie Porgy is
worst. The politicians at Holyrood or the media that they've got in their pockets.
Literally standing alongside a Conservative.
And this is correct. The media are in the because the media are actually turning on me as the Guerilla TV channel, who has got the Scottish people's interest at heart, and their attention's on me rather than being on the politicians, softballing questions to the politicians. So Georgie Porgy's correct here. Probably saw me on the Guerilla TV channel.
And an ex-army major under a red, white and blue banner. People are entitled to ask, are they not? Who are you, George Galloway?
My goodness, you're strangely animated for BBC Scotland. Are you allowed to lose your rag like that?
I'm not losing my rag. I'm putting a perfectly civil question to you.
I think everyone
it's a
watching it
question,
already knows.
Peter Smith lost his rag, didn't he? Racist. Bully. I mean, the hypocrisy of him interrupting and questioning of Mr. Sawa to call me a bully. I mean, it's just absolutely. But the brass neck, they've got no self-realisation. Or either that he was on drugs, which he was looking at, sorry, racist, and things like that. When we were having a discussion about child protection and child rape, like we've seen now from somebody else speaking about it on that Fox, whatever it was. Not just me, I just brought forward the questions, and Peter's like, oh, and he looked like he was away with that. And shouting racist, and we were on top of race. But I've already gone back and done a complete podcast on that as well. Back and have a wee look at that. And he was talking about, oh, you're a bully. Well, I didn't jump in the middle of your interviews, Peter, start calling you a communist or a simp to the Parliament. Which Georgie Porgy is actually correct. They are all the unholy alliance of the media and the actual politicians is quite staggering, and I think I've actually pricked that, and Georgie Porgy here is also pricked that.
It's snorting out of your ears.
There's nothing snorting out of my ears. I can assure you, there's an earpiece keeping it in place. Can you just answer the question?
I certainly heard you, and so did everyone else. I don't know what serves the Scottish people worst. The politicians at Holyrood or the media that they've got in their pockets.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And Porgy's not wrong here. Georgie Porgy's not wrong.
And so did everyone else. I don't know what serves the Scottish people worst. The politicians at Holyrood or the media that they've got in their pockets.
And they haven't got the Guerilla TV channel. That's why they try and destroy it. That's why they write the articles. We'll go into the articles later on, but that's why the print media are trying to destroy it, because we do have the Scottish people's interest in our manifesto, in our hands, and our company, the Guerilla TV channel, to make sure that we protect you. We're on your side, not the media's or the political class.
Well, listen, I asked you a pretty straightforward question. Are people entitled to wonder who you...
It was a tirade.
No, it wasn't. Well, let me cut to the...
You tell him, George.
Chase of that question.
You would have called it a rant.
Let me cut to the chase of that question. Are people entitled, given the journey you've been on, the fact that you've said you hate the people that you now stand beside, to wonder who you really are?
Why are you wasting the precious moments?
Because you haven't answered my question. Because you haven't answered my question.
You're not Jeremy Paxman, trust me on that.
Okay, well, do you want to answer the question?
Just makes you look even more strangely animated.
Do you think people are entitled to question your motives?
I believe in Britain and the unity of Britain. You, who get your wages from Britain...
You also believe in the CCP as well, Georgie Porgy, so, you know... I'm not sure what type of Britain you believe in.
Are doing daily everything you can to destroy Britain. And everyone watching this already knows it.
But here's the thing. You think there should be another referendum, don't you? You said that in the past. You said it'd be a democratic monstrosity, you said in 2017.
No, I don't. We believe that there should be another referendum in a generation, which is between 20 and 30 years.
So what's changed since 2017 when you said it would be a democratic monstrosity to deny the Parliament another referendum?
Listen, Alliance for Unity was formed 2 months ago. Its policy is this, that we should have a referendum again if half the people of Scotland vote for separatist parties, and it should be a generation from the last one, and it should be subject to a Clarity Act, just like they have in Canada, so that everybody knows the onerous obstacles that necessarily must attach to breaking up a country. That's our policy. That's what we're standing on. It has a lot of supporters, even if they don't often get a hearing on the BBC.
In a sentence, Mr. Galloway, do you think Scottish politics needs you?
Well, that's a matter for the electorate. I believe that...
I think Georgie Porgy would be quite illuminating. I mean, obviously, I don't support communists, and I prefer the Scottish the people on the ballot play, the Scottish Libertarian Party, the UK Reform Party, but I would also like to see Georgie Porgy get elected. I think Georgie Porgy by himself, would be quite interesting. So... Guerilla TV channel, Georgie Porgy, although you banned me in the mother of all talk shows, looks forward to you being elected.
There are few proper parliamentarians at Holyrood. I think most of them are somewhat bland.
Yeah, and that's correct. He's correct there. I would say George is a parliamentarian, and I give him his credit there. I would suggest that he has got greater political gravitas, even though his gravitas is wrong. It would certainly be interesting to have Georgie Porgy in and having the communists. I just wouldn't be voting for too many communists.
Already acknowledged.
Oh, come on. Well, we're nearly finished anyway.
Yes,
right,
that's
listen,
certainly
I'm going to
been
go.
the case over the last 3 or 4 months.
Oh, this guy's quite interesting. I always like this guy. I don't know who this guy is. Voice of the Forgotten. Computer engineer, security and forensic and political analysis, fairer immigration system for all non-UK law-abiding citizen and Tory and Brexiteer. Hearing SNP is polling at 53%. I actually lost faith. It's so depressing and causing anxiety among the black community. I don't know why he's doing that. I'm very surprised that the SNP are causing angst amongst the black communities. Oh, here's wee Moby.
Targets and then repeatedly missed them. The current Scottish Government really does need to take responsibility for the fact that in areas like transport, emissions are going up. They're going in the wrong direction. It's not just that progress is too slow, we're going in the wrong direction. So we need to take that bold, transformative approach We need to say that a just transition begins right now instead of...
What we need to build is high-tech, high-growth companies. That's what we need to do, Baldy.
Oil and gas extraction lasts for another generation. We need to be investing in public transport that will meet the needs of every community across Scotland and do that affordably. By doing these things, we can have the economic recovery from the pandemic as well that will generate the...
High-growth, high-tech businesses. That's what we require.
Jobs of the future. So if we believe in that kind of optimistic vision...
I don't believe in anything economic that comes out of the Greens' mouths. It's a complete fallacy. I wouldn't want them to control my bank account. I wouldn't want them to control a purse, never mind an economy.
...of Scotland's future. We need to vote like our future depends on it.
Definitely do not vote for the Green Party. Oh, here's Stammer losing Hartlepool. Oh my God. Oh dear, the multi-millionaire Starmer is now not that popular in the working class communities. Who'd have thought it? What you guys say? Laugh out loud. He doesn't. Christie, the serial murderer, Harry Potter at 60, 10 Ripplington Place. Labour losing Hartlepool after 62 years. A heavy but unsurprising blow for Keir Starmer. And they're going to lose, and they look like they're losing in Scotland even more. They're losing even more. I think they're down to 14% in Scotland now, the Labour Party. Totally destroyed. There'll be Anna Sauer and himself in the phone box for the next conference. He'll be bringing in his offshore tax collection to fund it. Oh my goodness! And getting the guy that defrauded the Inland Revenue for £900,000. Oh, he's him at the next Mr. Trump. Oh, losing Hartlepool after 62 years, a heavy but unsurprising blow for Keir Starmer. Labour could lose Hartlepool for the first time in 62 years if a poll is to be believed, but such an outcome would not be surprising. Stranger things have happened in what has traditionally been a safe Labour seat in the north-easternly heartland. Oh, Labour leader Keir Starmer meets local people at Swayton and they're all going beat it, we're all voting Tory. So that we can get our passports and Boris Johnston's liberal and libertarian credit scoring policy where we're all camered with and using our vax card to get about and do things. Honestly, you need to stop voting for the Tories as well. Tories are on track to win the critical seat. I would vote for the Reform Party. If I was in Hartlepool, vote for the Reform Party. On this instance, vote Tories. But in the next election, I would definitely vote for the UK Reform Party. Their candidate, North Yorkshire farmer Jill I know who that is. Mortimer has pulled ahead of Labour in opinion polls. Defeat at the ballot box on May the 6th would be a heavy blow for Sir Keir Starmer in his first electoral test since becoming party leader. Such an outcome would not be a surprise. Labour vote in for the heavy industry town has been steadily declining in recent years, as it has all over the UK. I think the Labour Party might disappear up its own backside. That's what I think. I think it's going to be a few commies. And that's it. They're all going to be thinking, wow, this Labour conference is a bit weird with all these commies with the red stars. And oh my goodness, unbelievable. Oh, absolutely unbelievable. So he's off. So the time might be up. Look at that beautiful hotel getting absolutely shelled as well in Scotland. Absolutely disgusting. What about people who have been falsely accused? Patch carried the gimp. So this is wee Moby. Wee Moby. So This is essential policy for survivors of sexual abuse, genuinely puts women at the heart of policy making. I thought it was equality. Greens pledge anonymity and legal aid for victims. I thought that you'd already had that. Greens pledge anonymity and legal aid for victims. The Green will today pledge and enshrine anonymity for victims of sexual assault in law and make legal. So what happens if they're lying? What happens if you've been falsely accused of sexual assault, and the person should have to give up the anonymity if they're being accused of falsely accusing somebody of sexual assault, because the person who's made the crime is the alleged victim, who's now the actual criminal. And make legal aid available to all domestic abuse survivors. Unlike other parts of the UK, there are no general prohibitions on identifying sexual offence complainers in Scotland. Instead, there is an understanding to maintain anonymity between mainstream outlets, which they didn't do for Alex Salmond. Meanwhile, under the current system, victims of abuse are given additional measures of support in crime cases. So I think he's Patrick Harvey's gay as well. Nicola Sturgeon's alleged lesbian. Ruth Davison. So there's nobody heterosexual on any of the majority of. I think Willie Rennie might be heterosexual, although jury's out with all of those liberals. And Sarwar, I don't know. Well, jury's out with Sarwar, isn't he? Not eligible for legal aid in civil cases. Commenting, Scottish Greens co-leader Patrick Harvey said that the Scottish Greens believe victims of sexual violence must be given the legal. Sexual violence must be given the legal right of anonymity. I think we've already got that. When was this done? Far too many women and children experience domestic abuse in Scotland lack access to justice because they are not eligible for civil legal aid. This needs to change so that women who experience violence at home can get legal help they need when they need it. Recently, improvements in the round the clock of domestic abuse. So this is April the 7th. 2021. So if you want something to laugh at, like a cartoon, go and read the Greens. I'll go through the Greens manifesto. There's the Greens manifesto there. So I'll come round to the Greens manifesto. So if you can imagine, like the village idiot with a crane book and drawing pictures and things like that, that's going to be the Green manifesto. Right, my baby gorillas, I'm out of here. That was too funny. I really enjoyed that. What's Paul Hutchins saying? Humza must go. I'm retweeting that. Yeah, Humza must go. Conservatives won't fight Labour, and Labour will bring more of the same. That's right. Vote Alan Finlay, the Scottish Libertarian Party, Glasgow Pollock on May the 6th. Yeah, vote. There you go. Don't vote Labour. Don't vote the SNP. Vote Alan Finlay and Pollock. He's a great guy. Really brilliant politician. 10 out of 10 guy. Really nice guy as well. So vote Alan Finlay and Pollock and get rid of the Labour Party and the SNP, both authoritarians. And we all support Stephen Crowder as well for being banned on YouTube. Obviously, we've not been monetised yet. We should be monetised. We've not been monetised yet. Obviously, been interfering with the channel. We'll soon get a new way of actually doing things. We're being suppressed as well. So that we're algorithmically suppressed as well. So, guys, I love my baby gorillas. I hope you enjoyed that. That's how long did we go for there? 2.5 hours. Love you guys.